How you doing, my brother? God bless you. God bless you. All the way around.
What is your favorite Austen novel or character, and why?
I would say it would be Emma. I think Emma is not just a masterpiece, much like Chekhov's Three Sisters. It's the fusion, I think, of her own sense of suspicion of conventional morality on the one hand, but also knowing you can't have an isolated quest for individual will independent of a social context that could lead toward either disaster or even a cynicism of soul. And you get this wonderful fusion of Emma where she actually remains Socratic. She is involved in a quest and a seeking of self-knowledge, and yet at the same time she recognizes she must acknowledge the social context. She can't be a kind of sentimental subversive, nor should she be a conformist who is deferential to custom. So you get a fusion in Emma, and in so many ways I think that that is her masterpiece.
Do you have a least favorite novel, and why? Is there any of her novels that you think don't quite work?
No, I tend to be a Jane Austen freak, I think. Even those novels that I know don't measure up to Emma's, I still find them so fascinating. There's moments, there's slices that more than titillating, they're empowering, they're ennobling. Now, I have not had a chance, of course, to read some of those early manuscripts, to read the Juvenilia and so forth and so on. Even those wonderful letters where she gets to be sometimes rather, if not malicious, pretty intense in certain put down and so on. I still find it quite interesting. So unfortunately, I find it difficult to say I have a least likable text of Jane Austen. She's full of a heterogeneous expression. She has a diverse corpus, and I'd like to devour every word of it. Certainly politically, she and I would have been on very, very different sides of the fence, as it were. So I wouldn't say it's unappealing. I just say I put it in context and recognize that as the grand genius that she was like all great artists, not simply a transcender of her age, but also a child of her age. So she was able to transcend her age in writing works that are timeless, which is to say they have something to say for every time. But she's also a human being. She's a child of her age. British imperialism, the patriarchy that still she's wrestling with. Many of her characters, of course, quite famously wrestling with marriage as the end all and be all in a certain sense, even though within that marriage you want self-realization, self-fulfillment. So there's a number of different political aspects that I would clash with Jane Austen. I'm a deep Democrat with tilts toward always focusing on the poor, and the least of these as both Christian and deep Democrat. She also is Christian. It's very interesting. She's a Christian Stoic. I'm much more of a Christian Chekhovian. And that's an interesting juxtaposition we need not get into at the moment. But I've got some deep differences with her, even as I acknowledge her unadulterated genius. It must be said that one of the great oppositions in the modern world is the opposition between Jane Austen and Ralph Waldo Emerson. Emerson, New World, American, preoccupied with self-creation, self-refashioning, the imagination playing a fundamental role in reshaping self and world, always suspicious of constraints, always trying to transgress and transform and transcend constraints. Jane Austen, constraints, 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 suspicious of transgression, suspicious of the imagination running too wild, resulting in a transcendence of constraints. Emma, the masterpiece of Jane Austen, a balance between constraints and will and imagination. Ralph Waldo Emerson, always suspicious of constraints, which means that the world of Jane Austen will always be too narrow, too pinched, too circumscribed, and like Prometheus, Ralph Waldo Emerson wants to break out. Fascinating tension between the two. I happen to be in love with both of them. Jane Austen remains popular because she is preoccupied, like all great artists, with the human condition. that she focuses on what it means to be human, what it means to be featherless, two-legged, linguistically conscious creatures born between urine and feces, whose bodies will one day be the culinary delight of terrestrial worms, which means we have fears, insecurities, anxieties, we have envies, we wonder who we are, we need protection, we need association, we need recognition, and we're conscious of the fact that we're vanishing creatures, we are disappearing organisms who one day will not be. Any great artist who keeps track the levels of fears and insecurities and anxieties is also the yearnings, the moments of joy and pain, the heights of ecstasy, the depths of despair. Jane Austen, like Shakespeare, like John Coltrane, like Toni Morrison, like Giacomo Leopardi, like Federico Garcia Lorca. We could go on and on, Stephen Sondheim. All are wrestling with the same issues of what it means to be human. I think her work will last forever.
Dr. West, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.